Welcome to the Stimpack. My name is Jesper Agagaga. I'm your host tonight, and today another piece of MWO content. With me today is the EMP player, JustcallmeASH. Welcome, man.
Welcome, man. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah. So this is I've been watching your stream for a while, and I thought you're an interesting personality. So let's get this guy on. Let's hear what he has to say.
Unlucky for you, maybe. Not unlucky. I don't know.
I think it was. I would actually say that you get. I think you get a bit of flack for being. I think a good word would be abrasive to some people. And I had I think it was rather lucky that I actually stayed and watched your stream, because I remember coming in and writing something in chat like, "Hey, what's up, Ash? I really enjoy the content." And I think it was Mario who just hammered me. It was like, "Oh, what is this fucking nuthugger doing? Like, get the fuck off Ash's nuts." And I was like, "Fuck you, dude." And
yeah, that's Mario.
Yeah, it took a bit of getting used to being in your chat, but the more I stayed, the more I could like feel the warm camaraderie that's actually going on in there. Yeah, I was really happy to stay, and that's why I thought let's get this guy on. Seems really dedicated to the game, and I guess we're gonna have a bit to talk about on the World Championships that's going on as well. But first, I'd like to hear how you got into esports and like competitive computer games. Like, how's your story coming up?
No, I suppose not really much of a story. I played the only really other game that I played consistently to any degree more than about a month or two was Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne about 10-15 years ago with a bunch of Aussie mates over here. We're just casual. I mean, competitive in that we wanted to win and we set out to win, but realistically we never got paid or anything like that. So it was just full casual in game. And then I hadn't played a video game for like 4 or 5 years because I was setting up businesses and stuff. Like I literally had a gaming PC sitting there. Hang on one sec. Sorry about that. And hadn't used it in 4 years. You know, setting up business is what you do, right? You pause life and focus on other shit. And so that's what I was doing then. And then I had a MechWarrior Online Founders Pack that I hadn't even used. Like I played the alpha or the beta maybe for like a week or two. I played maybe half a dozen games because like, oh shit, that was my game from my childhood. I remember that. All right, sweet. I'll jump in on it. But I think my Discord just restarted itself. Sorry about that.
Your camera cut out. And here I am.
Yeah.
A twin of myself. You can see the lovely part of the side of my head.
Yeah, sorry, my Discord literally just rebooted itself. I don't know why it did that.
Yeah, no chin.
Discord things, man. That's why I hate Discord. Just does some weird shit now and again. But yeah, so got into MechWarrior Online. It was like 2015, I think, December. I was like, oh, I've got this Founders Pack. I spent like $150 Australian. I should play the game, you know? Like I spent this money on it. I should go and do it. So I just started playing casually, and I was a total shitter. Like I was like my win-loss rate was like 30% or something. Like it was horrendous. 0.3 the win-loss ratio. It was disgusting. I'm like, nah, this is terrible. I don't like losing, you know? Fuck that. So sorted out a couple of units and whatever. Started off with a unit that wasn't really a right fit for me, a bit too regimental. I'm not a very regimental type of person, a bit more liberal, a bit more relaxed, you know, have a bit more fun. I don't like strict rules. And so actually a bunch of us, about 150 of us, left that unit to start our own less rule-based unit and more fun-based unit, which was the 54MR. And then, yeah, we dropped faction play. I reckon I was doing 30-40 drops a week minimum. You know, we'd probably do about 7 or 8 drops every time we were on. And then I started doing some drop calling, bits and pieces. And then Daidachi, who will be in your chat there, no doubt, got me into competitive and said, oh, look, there's a league coming up. You should play, you know? And I'm like, nah. And he's like, yeah, do it. And he kept pestering the shit out of me, right? Like, he wouldn't leave me alone. And so I said, oh, all right. In the end, I'm like, all right, I'm bound to a bit of peer pressure because that's what happens when, you know, I'm at the pub or something and, you know, someone says, have another beer. Oh, I always say yes, right? So eventually I was going to cave. And and then it was there, just a whirlwind from there. Like all of a sudden, I'm playing in the MechWarrior Worlds the next year. You know, helping to lead drop call the team. Fast forward that was what 2017 Worlds, I think it was. And then fast forward to 2018, sort of midway through the year. Bunch of changes in the game caused a bunch of units to die, EMP was one of those units for a whole bunch of historical reasons, which aren't mine. So it's another chapter. It's an old chapter, I guess. Not part of me, but then got just sort of doing some trials with the EMP boys. Sort of, I said, hey, look, if you need another body, let me know. And a couple of guys vouched, said, hey, yeah, Ash, pretty good shooter. Let's get him in here and see what he can do. And that was an eye-opening experience. That was 3 months of having my to coin a bit of a rough term, my shit punched in, because that's literally what happened for 3 months. It was annoying. Not annoying in that fact, but just a bit of a pain to get up to speed, I guess. Just trying to fix my cam. There we go. That should fix it now. Trying to fix my camera. Yeah, just to sort of get in.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry, just Discord keeps rebooting. I don't know why. After about 3 months, and the team sort of said a couple of times, you need to pick your, you need to improve, you need to get better.
It's called a heads up. You got a heads up.
I got a what?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, or in CS:GO. No, in CS:GO it's called a heads up when the organization says
heads up. Right,
you need to pick up your shit.
Just call it just getting told to get better, pull the thumb out of your ass and do something. So I'm like, yeah, all right, sweet, no worries. Just kept working on it, and then Bang was on the team. I actually got to MechCon was when I found out. I got to MechCon and everyone's all acting all weird and shit. Like it was on the morning of the first day of competition, and we're all sort of standing around the VIP area, and everyone's acting all weird. I'm like, what's going on with all you lot? Like you're all super strange all of a sudden. What's going on? And then they're like, yeah, you're all weird because you're on the team. So I don't know if it was weird because I was then like, everyone's like, hey, yeah, you're in the team or you're not, or they would just be weird or what. But it was just kind of this really awkward, weird moment. But yeah, it was pretty good because, all the practices and shit were during the middle of the day for me. So I'm having to leave work, twice to 3 times a week, for 2 hours and go back to work. Luckily, I'm in that situation that I can do that and like to have that flexibility in life and that sort of thing. So, it was. I mean, one of our guys was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning for practices too. So, I always say that my sacrifice was as big as some of the others. But it was good to go through all that and to make it, I guess.
Yeah, and so. What's your situation now? Tell me a bit about the competitive scene now. I guess a lot of the people here know what the competitive scene is like, but tell me what I want to hear. How far the progress on the worlds? Are we calling it the worlds or?
We're not allowed to call it the world. We're calling it what are we calling it? Let me have a look. I don't even know. I should know this. What are we calling it? MechWarrior Championship Series, I think is what we've decided to call it. Because PGI have decided this year not to run a Worlds for a multitude of reasons, and that's fair enough. So as the community has done, and I've been involved with running comp and shoutcasting comp games for seasons now, like probably 2.5 years, 2 years. That's kind of how I got into streaming and all that other sort of stuff, was actually doing shoutcasting of comp matches. And people enjoyed that, and they're like, yeah, you should stream and all that sort of thing. So I've been in that comp world for probably a better part of 2 years now, or thereabouts. And the community's taken up running this year's series. And it's taken us 3 or 4 months to get to where we are. Doing all that sort of stuff, getting the rules together, consulting teams. There's a lot of work. I mean, we've got a support crew of like 12 dudes or something helping out. Everything from art guys to referees, chief refs, all that sort of stuff in the background doing some work. An entire shoutcast team. I think we've got like 8 dudes just there alone. So then we've got the admins and stuff. A couple other mates of mine. And, Yeah, look, I wouldn't say the competitive play for MechWarrior is in a great place right now, but I'm still thinking the Championship Series that we're running is still going to have a good 30 to 40 teams in there. I think last year it had about 50, so I think that's not too bad.
Yeah. And when are we gonna see any new info or hear any new info on it? And where can people read about it?
It is on the Discord. I'll give you that so you can chuck it in a YouTube link or something later on. So that is up and coming in terms of the rules and everything. It's all out there. The rule documents out there for perusal for any team that wants to join in. And teams are pulling it apart, giving feedback. But I mean, we've been garnering feedback for 3 months, so there's not a hell of a lot left to garner in terms of that feedback. So pretty good, actually. It's pretty good. Pretty set. So we should have hopefully dates in the next week or two. I've been a little bit MIA this week just because the work's been too busy. But the other guys are working on some stuff in the background and that. So yeah, and we're getting commitments out of PTRI for prizes and bits and pieces, like in-game rewards and all sorts of other bits and pieces. And we're even approaching sponsors, like say like an NVIDIA or something to try and sponsor the tournament. And a bunch of other organizations like that to see if we can try and get some stuff for the players who put in a reasonable amount of time. I mean, to get to this level, once you get there, it's not too bad. Once you get there, to stay there, you just sort of need, again, it's like riding a bike, I suppose. Once you can, or you run professionally or whatever, at a much higher level, it doesn't take too long to get back to that. You do get out of shape a little bit, but we shoot each other up over a couple of weeks, and everyone will be back in the hot seat pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. Have you gotten a hold of NVIDIA yet? Because I know someone, because I'm involved with their AI program. I might be able to connect you.
I've got a bunch of contacts, so I haven't got that far yet because we haven't done the proposal finished yet.
Okay.
But yeah, look, if I need something, I'll definitely reach out to everyone that I know and see what you can work out.
As a huge network. Okay, so that's some information about the worlds. So one of the things we always talk about is what do you think it takes to get good? And I'm thinking primarily maybe going on in the offset of you getting the heads up when you're in the team. Like a lot of people, when they get a heads up, they will usually not take that very well. I think we've spoken a lot about people having egos and not like you need to get better and you're doing this wrong. And a lot of people will say, "Hey, fuck you, buddy. I'm doing great. You're not gonna."
It hasn't really. Well, it wasn't like that for me. I mean, they're telling me to get better and shit. I'm like, all right, sweet, no worries. Like, I mean, this is what you need to work on. This, and this. Yeah, cool, no worries. Like, if I'm not good at something, I'll take feedback on it. No dramas. I mean, you're not going to get better as a person if you're not going to listen to feedback. If you're trying to improve at something, like if you're trying to get better at something, be a part of something, that's bigger than just you. You have to be able to take that feedback on them. And if you're not, what are you doing? Literally, what are you doing? I mean, it's just come back to sort of a bit of my work-related sort of stuff as well. But I mean, I see like 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds coming through the door, and they've got no clue what's going on in the world. Like, I had much more life skills at 20 than the kids coming through in this current generation do.
When I was your age, I'll tell you.
So I can imagine they wouldn't take feedback too well. Hey, look, you didn't play too well. Get F this, that, and the other. But that's not it. You can't have that attitude, or you're not going to succeed. You're really not, because you're never going to improve.
Do you think that's something that's well, it's not unique to you, but is it something that you learned just from your unique life experiences, or do you think it's something that comes with? And I hate talking about age, but because I'm a big believer that some people develop it early, but I also think a large part of it comes with age and experience. What's your take on that?
I'd say a bit of both for me. Without getting into my life story, I've had a fairly interesting life, man. Like, I had some pretty crazy shit happen to me when I was young. Like, I grew up in a pretty rough area of Melbourne at the time, and I grew up in the middle of what was Melbourne's gangland war at the moment at that time, and there was shootings going on, mate. Every other week there was public shootings, and it was a interesting time growing up. I mean, I'm not going to say it was as rough as say some of the really, really drug affected areas in America and other bits and pieces like that, but it was, yeah. Look, I think childhood had a lot to, and early teens, early 20s had a lot to do with taking on that attitude. But it does come with maturity as well. I mean, and half of EMP is older dudes. Everyone's level-headed. Even the younger guys, though. I mean, that said, like Bowser and that. Like Bowser's, I mean, compared to me, he's like a young kid. I mean, he's not, but like he's so much younger than me. But the guy's still level-headed. So I think that's also the people you surround yourself with as much as anything else. Like if you surround yourself in a team full of egotistical dickheads that can't take feedback, well, guess what? You're all going to be egotistical dickheads and you're not going to get very far. Like you're not going to be able to improve and work. Okay, well, we didn't do that right. How do we fix that? Like it's just not going to work. That's not a team. Put it that way. I don't picture that as a team.
So what's your take on, and Bear Claw? Yes, this is salt-free nonsense, pure salt-free nonsense. How do you think you handle that in a team? Like, I asked Bowser about it in the same way, and he's in or you guys have been in a lucky situation that, and this is the answer I hate whenever being in some kind of situation. Like, how do you get out of this situation? Well, you don't get into that situation. It's easy as that. So you have had the luck of being in a team with a lot of level-headed guys, but I think a lot of the listeners here, or a lot of the listeners from my country anyway, are looking for ways to solve that problem in their teams, because I think a lot of the my listeners are training CS:GO and stuff, and there's a lot of that going around, and a lot of younger people.
I'm gonna throw something a little bit left field at you. You know what I think makes at least EMP work as a group as well is that there's so many different cultures. I mean, I'm the wild Aussie. We've got some fairly laid-back Canadian dudes. There's a couple of super well-off dudes in the team. Like everyone is from super different walks of life, age groups, and backgrounds. But you got to remember, how did you come together, right? The common ground. The game you're playing. You all shared common ground somewhere, right? Like, it's. I've played and raced cars for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
In after hours and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's another keen hobby of mine. But you put myself and my friendship group at home together in a room. There's about 30 of the boys. Like, there's about 30 of us that are all super tight knit. I'm in business with half of them, all this sort of stuff. Like, like we've been great mates for 15 years. But if you put us all into the room together and someone walked in and said, okay, these guys are all friends, how do you think they know each other? Any money, anyone would say there's no way that these guys are all the best mates. They're all totally different, but they all share one common interest, or at least one common interest, but they're all from different walks of life. That is the key. And I think, well, at least growing up in Australia, it's super multicultural, dude. Like I was one of only, in my school year level, there was 220 kids or something. I was like one of 5 Aussies in my entire year level. You know what I mean? Like it was everything. It was a mixed bag of every race, and that's what made it cool,
So are you telling me that esports teams would get a diversity consultant?
Well, maybe not a diversity consultant, but I mean, I get that certain teams in certain regions are different. Say you're Korean, you're going to basically mostly have Korean players on your team. But if you look at other things and some other sports, like say soccer, the best teams in the world, they're not all from the same country, right? They're all from multiple countries. Like they pick the best players. They don't go on nationality. They go on what's best for the team, and that is the best people.
But I think there's a lot to just that mentality that like we're doing what's best for the team. Screw your ego. Like Can you read what Daidashi just wrote in chat? I think he has a really interesting point there. I'm just gonna level out my camera.
He just said another way of thinking about it is that conflict resolution comes down to dealing with the emotional component of any disagreement before you can actually handle the logical side, and that's it. It's exactly what it is. Like, you have to take emotion out of it. I mean, everyone says that you do. I don't necessarily agree with that. You don't have to take all emotion out, because emotion, it brings passion, and that's where a lot of drive comes for a lot of people, rather than just cold-hearted, calculated, killer kind of attitude. But there's a balance. There's a balance out of it. I mean, yeah, you have a heated discussion at the time. Let it be. Walk away from it. Think about it. Don't worry, and then come back when if you've had a disagreement, come back with a cooler head and say, look, could have attacked that better. How do I do it again? What do I do next time? How do I go about it? There's many ways. But just being a flash in the pan all the time is not. That's not it. I mean, people see me on stream and shit. I'm fired up half the time. I mean, by that time, I'm usually about half a dozen cans as well. So that that does change things a little bit. But in life and stuff, I'm much more chilled out. Like I've got like 45, 50 staff, and everyone's like, you don't micromanage them? Like I go, no, I don't need to. I trust them. They're there to do a job. They're there to pay to do a job. You've got to have some faith in your people to help you out. Everyone's trying to achieve the common goal is improve the business and further the business, because everybody wins. Everyone's got more hours. Everyone's got more money. Like it's a big team thing. Like I'm super team. Like it's all about how the team performs. And if there's a bad apple, man, you cut that shit out. Like I do it in life and in friends. There's a bad apple in the friends group. We'll kick them out. At work, man, if there's a bad staff member, I'll sack them. I don't give a shit. I think that applies to everything. Like, just if someone is not the right fit, get out.
But I think that attitude is great, but it takes a lot of. If you're not naturally a person who's good at that kind of thing, I think it takes a lot.
It takes balls. It takes balls to make that call.
And practice.
Like, you're not good for me. You're not good in my life, man. You might be great for someone else, just not for me. It takes a little bit to work that out, I think, and that comes with age a little bit.
But okay, so let's say that some of our listeners are in a team where there's a little bit of conflict looming, and they wanna work it out, but they don't quite know how to attack it. What would you say to them?
Oh shit, mate! Go with the Aussie style. Go down to the pub, get a fucking beer, and talk it out. Honestly, I'm not even joking, mate. If we've got a problem like that over here, like in our friendship groups or whatever, we'll just sit down. Our boys come round, or we'll just go down to the pub. We'll hash it out. That's it, man. Like maybe that's just a very Australian way of looking at it.
Be aware
that's how we do it over here, man. Like it's
some of our listeners,
no closed door rubbish going on. You just sit down and just sort it out, man. That's it.
Some of our listeners will not be old enough to go to the pub. We have a lot of maybe 15 to 18-year-old CSGO talent.
Maybe they sit in the tea room and share a can of Coca-Cola.
No, but like I'm looking for the more nitty-gritty. It's like, how do you initiate that conversation? Like,
I guess if you're in a team situation like that takes the more senior member to step up. There's always generally a more senior person or a team leader or the team manager or something like that in terms of like esports and, well, generally anything at work as well. That's the job of someone higher up the chain to sit down and sort that out and basically put it on the table and say, look, guys, we've got an issue. This is what I see the issue is. Am I wrong or am I right? Am I right or am I wrong? And then take it from there. Okay, look, no, you're wrong. Okay, cool. Let's walk through it. Okay, what have I missed? Help me to understand the situation. Let me know what it is. So say the upper management has actually got it wrong, and I get it wrong at work all the time, man. I was like, okay, cool. Let's sit down. This is what I think is happening, blah, blah, blah. And one of my guys will say, nah, it's a little bit different than that. Okay, cool. Run me through it. They run me through it. Sweet. Let's hash it out from that new point. Sometimes you have to reset the bar a little bit to where it is from the management perspective and move on. Like maybe what you think is the issue versus what the players or your team is the issue is maybe not the same thing.
What if two of the players or the staff actually think they have two different opinions on the issue? At some point, you as the senior member will have to go in and you can see both sides of the agreement, and at some point, it's not choosing sides, but you're gonna have to choose like a course of action. How do you resolve that?
You choose you always come back to what is best for the business or what is best for the team, right? Now, if someone gets, and you have to pick something, right? So someone's going to get annoyed at that, and that's cool. That's fine. I mean, it's okay to be annoyed, but it comes back to what Dai was saying earlier. He's taking some of the emotion out of it. Yeah, okay, it's all right to be disappointed about it or something, and that's cool. Disappointment happens in life. Accept it. It's going to come your way 1,000 times over, and sometimes it's going to be some supermassive disappointment, and sometimes it's going to be super minor ones. But don't let that affect you. that much. You have to be able to let that go and go, okay, cool. That decision, I don't necessarily agree with it, but if I'm going to be a part of the team, well, I need to support it. Like, that's what I tell my staff all the time. You might not agree with what I'm doing right now, but I believe it is the best for the business. Eventually, I've had it multiple, when I say multiple times, we're talking hundreds of instances where maybe a couple of weeks later, they kind of come around to like, yeah, look, I was against this at the start, but I get it now. Like, I understand where you were headed with this. I was too emotional at the time. And, but that's the openness that I have with my staff, at least anyway. And it would be the same in EMP as well as the team. Like, it would be the same. We would easily work that out. We'd work that out in a day. It wouldn't even take a day or two to happen, I wouldn't think, because everyone's just that level-headed overall. But again, and you just look at it and go, yeah, cool. I now get it. Like, it is, there is a purpose behind it. There is an end game, and the end game is to either be better or to win or to further yourself. It's not to go backwards. Like, it's never to go backwards. If you're worried about going backwards all the time, you're never going to be looking in front, literally.
The warrior poet, Ash himself, dropping some knowledge.
Hey, I am no poet.
Okay, so but you have something going for you that I think maybe someone new in the senior position might not have, like like you're straight.
Oh, look, potentially, man. Look, I mean, just so the listeners may have a bit of a background for those that don't know, I've got 2 multi-million-dollar businesses. I've got 45, 50 staff, and I came from a background of IT project management where I was dealing with anywhere between 30 and 40 resources every night doing deployments and stuff. So managing people is, I guess, my bread and butter, I suppose, what I've been doing for a very, very, very long time. And that's in a team environment and a business environment when you've got lots of people. That's important. That's very important to do.
Yeah. But what I was saying is, like, you have something going for you, which is like, since you're a straight shooter and you always know, so if I fuck up or do anything that the boss or Ash doesn't like, let's say that you're the senior guy, he will let me know immediately. And he can either be right or wrong, but I can always trust that we will be able to talk it out.
That's exactly, I mean, even in the team, like in team practice, right? Like, someone's out of position or something, you tell them off. I mean, anyone listening to the comms would probably think, oh shit, that was a bit harsh. But it's just like, oh fuck, blah, blah, blah. Dude, you're out of position, get the fuck back, But we're not having a go at each other. It's just, sometimes people get out of, when they're zoning in, they're focused on what they're doing, they might get out of position and all sorts of things. So it's not sometimes, people would listen to comms and go, oh man, you guys are savage on each other. But I mean, once you log off, I don't think about it at all. It doesn't even enter my mind. Like, I'm just like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like, sweet, that was a good practice.
But my point is that some people will not have that confidence in handling conflict. They will be very conflict shy, and developing that trust in that conflict will resolve. It takes some time, but let's say you're a conflict shy guy or girl and you want to get into it with some of your teammates. Again, like, how do you start building that?
Write it down. Like, when you're on your own, generally in that situation, if you're a little bit less confident, I find that I tell people, write it down. Come to me with a bit of paper with your issues all written down. And you have to encourage that person to get that bit of paper out of their pocket that is in there, because they've written it down, and hell, it might be 15 pages long and you're opening Pandora's box, but you have to go through that motion. And it'll happen. Just let it happen, man. Every time I've done that with someone that's been a little bit or super conflict avoided, they've come with a list and stuff, and you either get them to read through the list themselves. If they're not comfortable with that, you go through their list for them. As a more senior person, that's what I'll do, and we have a look at it, and then we work through it based on whatever is on there. I mean, in any element of stuff, and say complaints or issues or reviews and conflict, there is an element of truth, and there's always an element of non-truth. So the non-truth part is generally where emotion comes into it and sometimes clouds what is going on, right? So that's what I've found, at least anyway. Like, there's always an underlying truth. Okay, so what is the core issue or issues? What are they? and you can kind of discard the superfluous stuff around that. You don't need to worry about that. Just move on.
That's a very concrete point. Like, make a list. I think that's very
Write it
hard.
down, dude. Write it down. That's what I tell everyone. Write it down, man. At work, I'm all day. Write it down. Literally. Write it down, because you're going to forget, or you're not going to remember, or you're not going to bring this to this meeting. Write it down. Always.
In the spirit of Ash, I'm going to have another, because it is Friday night, boys. It's Friday night. So
that's it, man. People got to have some beers on the stream. They're gonna pay attention.
Yeah. So another thing, I posted. I sent you that stream, or the thing I did with Astralis's mental trainer. Like, they have a sports psychologist. I would like to hear your take on someone who's been following computer games for, well, as I would imagine, as long as I have. Like, how have you seen the esports scene develop, and what do you think about the place it is now, where a 16-year-old guy can go in and play Fortnite for a couple of hours and win $3 million? Like, you have professional sports teams that have like physical therapists and sports psychologists. And
would it be down playing in a couple of hours? He's only whatever he's $3 million. He's probably been working at that for a couple of years.
Of course,
driving his parents down on the couch, being up till 4:00 in the morning. Look, it's when you start getting money behind things, things evolve and change. It's at the end of the day, it's business, right? It all comes back to, is money involved or is money not involved? I mean, that's it, right? It's money or not. It's money now. Gaming is getting larger and larger. The prize pools are getting bigger and bigger. It's now a business that needs to be run, but it needs to be run like a business, and the teams need to be run like professional sporting teams. I mean, some of these guys are earning some bloody big money, like really, really big, successful guys, taking 20, 30, 40 grand US a year in the lower leagues and small games. Think about larger games, like I said, the Fortnite one, $3 million. Crazy, man. It's crazy stuff. So yeah, they need to have physical therapists. They need to have psychologists. And how do we get it all better? Look, some of it is probably too much. You probably don't need that much in necessarily. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to play the game, and to play it and get better at it, you have to play the best. So at the end of the day, to improve in that sort of stuff, yeah. But for overall team health, you do need all these extra little things. And even like AFL, Aussie Rules Football over here, they've got career manager dudes now that are just there to make sure that the football players have got something to do after they leave the industry, after they leave the sport, like, it's crazy, man. Like, that wasn't a thing 20 years ago. It's some career planner for what are you going to do after football. Like, that wasn't a thing. Like, but now it's all important because it's grown. There's more money behind it. And with that comes more media exposure as well. And that's sometimes, I guess, the dark side is sometimes the media exposure, the media will absolutely hammer you. This team, this organization doesn't help their players. They don't care. And they'll savage you because one player might go out, he might get a little bit annoyed, go out and go say something after he's left the team or something, and just savage you with all these internal team secrets and stuff. And look, I've got a strange view on a lot of media and reporting and all the lack thereof in today's world. It's not like it used to be with investigative reporting and stuff like that. Everyone's just going for headlines, clickbait, and ad revenue. It's another discussion. But that's Pandora's box for me, is the news. Yeah. So let's not open that one.
But I think, like, the for example, the CS:GO scene in Denmark is very developed. But I think at this point, the thing about career management stuff, it's just something that that parents talk a lot about, and I think the organizations talk a little bit about, but I don't think we have career managers. But we have it's not an urban myth or something, but it's something we talk about. There's always a talk about you should always have a plan B, and we have some very good examples of that. For example, the CS:GO player Kerrigan from Mouse Sports. Right now, he used to play for FaZe Clan. he just finished his degree in, I can't remember if it's accounting or some kind of law.
Yeah,
But
gotta have plan B, man.
yeah, exactly.
Have to, like, yeah.
But how do you think, like you getting into competitive esports later in life? What's your advice for people coming up on how to manage that balance? Because there are some people who will say, hey, if you want this to happen, you gotta go full throttle, unless it's not gonna happen. And there's the other people.
You can go full throttle at it. It depends on how you want to attack it. So you don't, I mean, yeah, it's good to have a plan B, but say your aim is to win 5 tournaments over the next 4 years or whatever, and you're going to collectively earn, I don't know, say $15 million, right? As long as you're then investing that in, 30 houses, mate, after 5 years, you're done. You have to do nothing. Like, just live on the rent or the investments, like it's, or, share market, anything, like Bitcoin. As long as you're investing your money and not just wildly blowing it and treating it like you're a rock star and you're smart with your money, you can just go all in for 3 or 4 years. I don't actually see a problem with that. The problem then is if you don't make the money or achieve what you set out to achieve, and then you don't have a backup plan, then you got problems. So it's a balance. Like it depends. It's a fine balance, I think, between needing a plan B and not. I mean, if you're going to take $3 million out of Fortnite for the year, well,
yeah, then you said no worries.
Go all in. I'd go all in. I'd bet on. I'll be like, yeah, I'm all in. I'm all on black. That's just me though. Like if I wouldn't be like 80% in, and then yeah, but I need to still go to school and shit. I'd be like, nah, stuff that. I'm there 10 hours a day, getting good and shit.
But I think, I like for a lot of people who are coming up, from what I hear, what you're saying, you would imagine like, okay, so I've made it. I'm on a team now. We have a chance to go to what it's called, the majors and the Intel Extreme Masters and whatever. But I'm talking about before people get to that point, because I mean, esports now, it's a legitimate career opportunity, but it's not that safe,
Are you good at it, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious fairly well, maybe not necessarily early on, but when you make the decision to say to go into an esports team, is like, okay, how good am I and how good can I get? Like, where is that? You have to do a realistic assessment. I mean, so right now, perfect example, I'm getting back into Warcraft 3 because Reforged is coming out and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm looking at guys play and all the rest of it, just having a little bit of look on Twitch and poke around and stuff like that. I'm like, I ain't never going to be that good. Like, I know I'm never going to be that good at that game. I'm going to be good, but I'm not going to be that good. Do I want to get that good at it? No. How much work is required to get to that level? It would be, 5 to 8 hours a day practice. I ain't got time for that, man. I got other stuff to worry about. That's what you have to look at. What is it going to take for you to get to that point? To be good, if you're just starting out, what is that? And you might think, and the other thing is too, this comes back to a lot of MechWarrior players, you think you're good, right? But you're not. Now, this is a problem. That's, in-game leaderboards might tell you one thing, right? Oh, yeah, I am like tier 1. I'm against my name. I've reached it. I'm as good as everyone else with a tier 1 bar. I was like, dude, no. It's just fucking, no, you're not. You're just not. I don't know, man. It's going to deflate a lot of people out there, but you're just not. Like, it's just in-game metrics versus competitive and league play is very, very different.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're getting your toe in the water, you should do some amateur competitions and stuff and see where you're at compared to everybody else. And that'll give you a fairly quick reality check of where you're at. Are you at that level or aren't you? And if you aren't, what's it going to take to improve? And if you are kind of close and you do well in your first few competitions or something, just casual league, stuff like that, then sort of, start sniffing around for better teams. And that's what you have to do as well. Sometimes it's the person. I mean, some of these players get simply noticed because of how good they are while they're streaming or otherwise or in-game. But sometimes you have to seek out the team as well. Like what you want out of it. Sometimes you have to be a little bit proactive yourself, and for some people that's pretty hard to do.
So what would be your advice for like a player who feels he or she is really good when they're playing by themselves, but they're a little bit scared to go to that competition and like really test their mettle? Because I think we both agree, like competition, or going out and really testing yourself is the only way to really know if you're good, and it's the only way to really get better. But for people who are scared to take that step, like what would be your advice for them?
Oh, I got an easy one, man, and this is so Australian that you're gonna laugh. You're never gonna know if you never have a go. That's it. That's it, dude. Legit, man. Legit. You're never gonna know.
You're never gonna know if you. Man, you are a poet. Like chat spam some kind of emote about Ash being a
from
poet.
Australia.
Like, but it's
Yeah.
I completely agree. And for me personally, I discovered that fairly late in life. I was always averse to competition. Like, I don't want to get into that. And I was, when I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I really hated competition because it was so stressful and there were all these expectations, and I never really did good in competition. And now here later in my life, where I've started my own, I've started a couple of businesses now, and like you really get the feeling that the only way to know is to get out there and to essentially lose a lot. You need to lose a lot to get good, and
You do. You do, man.
it
You have
breaks
to
down
be
your
prepared
ego and
to lose. You have to be prepared to take the feedback to say, well, you're not where you think you're at. And that goes for all walks of life, dude. Like every area. Every area. Like it's yeah, okay, yeah, you can be better than that. All right, sweet. And look, some things you might be like, cool, I'm actually all right with not being that great
yeah,
in that
sure.
area because that's fine for me, and that's also cool. But if your aim is to be further down the track, well, you're cooked before you even get there. You're already done. Like you've lost.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I could be interested in what other esports, if any, that you're following. Are you?
Warcraft 3 esport, I follow that pretty heavily at the moment. Again, I just like seeing high level play of any game that I'm playing, I guess, to be honest. That's sort of how I got, I guess, a little bit better at MechWarrior. I started watching other Twitch streamers and just sort of poking around and seeing what was going on. And I didn't even know Twitch was a thing until like 2016. Like I'm a bit oblivious to some of this stuff, man, because I'm like for 4 years I was just flat out working, so I didn't even know what Twitch was. I didn't know it was that big. And then, oh wow, there's this whole world. I'm like, oh shit, okay, I've opened the door. Like I've literally opened the door to another world. And as the saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. I had no idea, so now I do.
So Warcraft 3, I'm really waiting.
Oh, dude, it's massive. It's like a 15, 20-year-old game, right? But I mean, there is daily competitions being streamed at the moment. And, you know, some of these players already this year have earned like 10, 15 grand US. I'm assuming it's US. Like, that's in a 20-year-old game, man. That's pretty damn good for an individual dude. Like, that's not bad per person. That's pretty good.
I was not aware. The only thing I see the only player that I know who's actually playing a lot is Grubby.
Yeah, he's still playing. Yeah, well, he actually, from what I understand, he quit his full-time job when Reforged was kind of announced or whatever and came back to streaming full-time. You know what I mean? And there's a bunch of other guys that are doing it as well. And some of the competitive streams and stuff, man, they're getting 4,000 or 5,000 people watching them. Like, it's still massive. Like, it is still, and that's just on Twitch. So they're probably streaming to YouTube and other, you know, streaming services and social interactions and stuff as well. So just, you know, just on one, if they're getting 4,000 or 5,000 just on one, I'm sure there's others watching on YouTube and other areas. I mean, I know there are. So it's still, I mean, you know, for a single comp, there's just really good players. You've got what 10, 20,000 people watching. I mean, for an aged game, that's insane. Like, that's absolutely crazy.
PGI, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Do you think we'll ever see Warcraft 4? Because I think,
I think
now they're doing...
eventually we may. Look, I don't, who knows? I mean, there's speculation around that plenty, right? But
Yeah. I would like to see it.
I mean, Reforged is just the reskin of what's already there, just tightening up the graphics and a little bit of balance and stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, look at this from a business perspective, right? Blizzard had all the assets there, the game built, and all the rest of it, and really all they've had to do is do some minor tweaks, some minor balance patches, and they've supercharged the game again out of nowhere. Like, I remember 10 years ago, I could search for 15, 20 minutes, can't find a game. I can log on 24 hours a day, click the search button, and get a game within 20 seconds, 30 seconds now. Like,
Damn.
that is how you do it. As long as you're doing right and breathing life into it with the right decisions, I mean, people still play your game
wink,
for 25
PGI.
I didn't say anything.
I have no affiliation, so I can say whatever the hell I want on this podcast and stream. But yeah, I just the reason, like, when I really got into esports was I really got interested in StarCraft 2 when it came out. Watching GOM TV, they had their own streaming platform, and I thought, oh, this is wild, man! These Korean players, they're getting like they're rock stars. When is this ever going to happen in Denmark? And then, like, maybe...
But they are, though. Like, you look at them, they're in stadiums. I mean, like League of Legends and other things. I mean, they're in stadiums with, 40,000 people, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's like esports has been here for a long time, but unless you're going to do it and take it seriously, you need to put some time into it, some effort, some planning. I mean, and this does come back to Mekon, like last year's. It was great event, great experience, but it could, a little bit more effort, it could have been a hell of a lot better. And I'm talking one person getting paid, 50, 60 grand a year could have turned that into $1 million event, like massively, with all sorts of sponsorships. It's just interesting to see like how it was done versus what could have been done with not a lot of effort. At least I think anyway. I mean, that's coming from, I've run multiple massive car events for years and stuff like that, and I'm getting 300 or 400 people, cars, attending these events, national events, coming from 4,000 kilometers away just to come to the events and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, and running those things and getting sponsors for those things has always been not that hard for me. Through that, my reputation or the group's reputation, or just from good promotion and good management. I don't know. Like, there's probably a combination of things that come into that.
Yeah. Where do you see esports is headed? For me, like, I've made the prediction multiple times that I think as time goes on, esports is going to be bigger than soccer has ever been.
I wouldn't say you're wrong. I wouldn't say it's going to happen next week.
No, definitely not.
But I think live sport, there is still something about going to a stadium with 100,000 people in it to watch a football match and hear them kick the footy. And I mean, when I say footy, I say Australian rules. And you hear them, you hear the bodily contact. They're like, oh, geez, that's some hard stuff. Like the same as rugby, they're hitting each other. You can hear that in the stadium. Like, oh wow! But I think esports will come. I mean, again, as the population grows, there is less football fields, less soccer fields, right? It's funny because some people even think that, like, you watch people play other games on television, like on Twitch and stuff. It's like, yeah, dude, you watch people play soccer on TV, right? And then they have a think about it for a second, they just walk out of the room. Okay. Like, they realize that they're like, oh shit, that's actually really a thing. Yeah, you're right. Okay, cool. Like, it is getting to that. It's very much at that stage now. I think it's growing massively, and that's again a different generation though. It's the upcoming generations coming through. That 14 to, I guess, 25-year-old, I guess, is where it's really strong.
Yeah, for sure.
25 or older, probably not as much.
But for people like us who grew up with games, who are now parents, like, we are watching it, and we are bringing our kids. Like, a few of you might have dropped with me while I had my 3-year-old daughter on my lap making drop calls and stuff. So, like, I'm bringing my daughter into esports, and I have a serious consideration, like, now, like, should I bring her in early and like teach her the ropes already, or should I just let it evolve naturally? I think that's actually a very interesting dilemma for parents today. Like we have a very famous tennis player, Caroline Wozniacki, I think her name is in English.
Yeah.
And like her whole life, because of her father, has been dedicated to tennis. So it's like you have a moral responsibility to make sure your kid has, like, she's happy now, like, because she's earning millions playing tennis, but did she have a good childhood? Like,
oh, look, that's an interesting discussion there too, right?
Let's get into
I went
it.
to school with some guys that play Aussie rules now, and some of them are just sort of finishing up. They're like 35, 36. They're at retirement age basically, and they've earned their millions. But yeah, what kind of childhood did they have? They were at footy practice and doing all this stuff 5 days a week. Their parents, it was weird. Like they were the weird kind of kid at school at that time. They were always wearing the same tracksuits as their parents. There was that typical sport dad, that it was kind of pushing his kid all the time. And he kind of never lived that 14 to 18 childhood that I had. It was totally different. I mean, I was out there getting drunk and causing a ruckus and, ended up down the cop shop regularly. I mean, that was entirely different upbringing to this guy who's just super regimental. So, I mean, who's to say it's right? Who's to say it's wrong? I mean, he turned out all right. I turned out all right. Everyone turned out all right. So, I mean, it's all different.
Yeah, but I can't. I'm excited to see what the long-term perspectives of esports is going to be, both in the case of we are going to have these parents who are gonna not force their kids to play esports, but gonna push them, like you said, but also stuff like we have a very prominent CS:GO player as well, who's called Device, who's a world-class sniper or AVPer, and he has some bowel problems, which is, I'm a physical therapist, and we usually see those kinds of problems with people get stressed, like burnout syndrome, whatever. And and I actually think like burnout is a legitimate thing in esports. Like you're traveling a lot, like different time zones, not enough sleep, like a lot of pressure to perform, and like
even the food, even a regular diet is damn important, man. Just as important as sleep and everything else. Like it's like say you're training in the gym, it's 80% diet, man. Like that's what it is. Everything else, it's 5% training, 15-20% sleep or whatever, and then the rest is all diet and all that. Like that's the most important part, is putting the right fuel in for the machine. You put the wrong petrol in there, man, the engine's kind of fucked, literally.
And I think I maybe, but like it's a common, I don't know if it's a misconception, but there's a lot of gamers out there who want to get good, who says like, yeah, who cares what I eat? I'm just sitting here. I don't need to move around. There's no, like, in a sense, like, who cares if I get fat? Like, could you speak to that? What's your take on?
Dude, you need to be physically out there and active. You can't just sit there and it doesn't matter. I could be a fat tubby dude. I mean, yeah, look, you can, and you can probably do well, but I mean, I don't. Any of the large competitions that I'm watching, I'm not seeing the sumo wrestlers sitting there smashing a packet of chips in between rounds at Counter-Strike or anything. So I don't know.
I need to ask Tear Up here. Jesper pinches ball sacks all day for work. Oh, because I'm a physical therapist. Yeah, man, there are so many. The MWO community and people following your streams, especially, man, they're such trolls. And I get.
Oh yeah, it's all shit stirring, man. You just gotta see through it, have a laugh at it, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm in a sense, I'm so naive, and I just like, what is he talking about? Pinches ball sacks? What the fuck is going on here? But yeah, I'm so big on. So big on like diet and sleep. I think like diet and sleep, or sleep especially. There's been done some recent studies There's a really interesting book out there from a guy called Matt Walker called Why We Sleep. It's like if you're sleeping less than 7 hours a day, there are these huge impacts on your health. And not only in the short term, like your chances for developing Alzheimer's and stuff is like hugely increased if you don't sleep a lot, especially here when we get a bit older, when our hormone levels drop and our regenerative man, that's so hard to say, regenerative abilities like kind of peter off. Getting your sleep is so important.
Oh, dude, I'm going to be a raving madman by the time I'm 65. I was a shift worker for 11 years. I didn't know what day or time or week it was for the better part of the 10 years, I reckon. Yeah, you can tell. It takes an effect, not having decent sleep. But I mean, again, when you're at that super high levels of esports, like you were saying, it is absolutely critical. Diet, sleep. I mean, look, some people can get away with it. It doesn't matter to them. But for a lot of people, it will make a difference. Absolutely.
And that means if you're listening right now and you actually want to reach that level where you can make a career out of it, you should get your sleep. Like a minimum of 7 to 8 hours every night. Make it a priority, because that's the easiest thing you could start to work on. Diet and exercise is hard, but sleep is rather easy. The benefit of sleeping more is much bigger than training.
You say sleep is easy, but I don't get much more than 6 hours every night. I've only had 4 hours sleep last night. Again,
because of me, now you're making me feel guilty. First, you make me feel guilty for drinking alone. Now you feel make
anyway.
me.
I don't think it was going to make any difference whether I was going to be talking to you or not. I was just awake, so it just happens.
Yeah. But I agree. Like, I've been working with shift workers, dealing with burnout and all kinds of issues for when I owned my clinic for those 10 years. I've sold it now, but I've seen a lot of those people, man. They are really messed up.
It ruins you, dude. That they're not sleeping properly. It sends you crazy. Like, it will send you crazy, man.
Yeah.
It sent me crazy.
And me having I just had a kid, another one like 12 weeks ago. Like, she's sleeping pretty all right, but man, it gets to you. Not sleeping, it really gets to you.
Oh, absolutely. Congratulations. I didn't know that, dude. Well done. Nice.
Yeah, I'm a parent of 2 now. I'm a real mech dad. And people keep telling me, no,
you got to log off before like 10:30 at night too. That's when the mech dads, man. That's when the mech dad's sleeping at 10:30. Oh, 10 p.m. Oh no, I got to log off. Why? Well, kids are going to be awake at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
All right, dude.
But it is kind of like in the military. Like, you need to eat and sleep while you can, because you never know what the conditions will be.
You never know when you're going to be next on a 12-hour stint, because you're just going to have to be awake.
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly. Another question, like, let's go back to what Bear Claw said, and he said, what's this salt-free stuff? We heard a lot of, I heard a lot of the MWO streamers talking about. It does seem like we've had another exodus of players in the game recently after the Epic Store announcement. Where do you think the MWO people are going in the next time? I heard Lizzie was going to start playing Warcraft.
I know a few guys actually that have gone back to Warcraft from the MechWarrior world. Actually, there's quite a few of them. It's funny how some of the games actually tend to overlap. I think that's also an age demographic. Well, actually not for Lizzie, because he's a young buck. But
he's a youngin',
some of the age demographics, some of the games do overlap certain timelines and stuff like that. I mean, as to what they're going to do for that, I mean, it's anyone's guess what game they're going to go off and play now. I mean, there was a massive drop off again in MWO population last month, which honestly is no surprise at all. I'm not surprised it was more, actually. I would have said it was going to be higher than that, but I guess have a look at the next month and then we'll really see how far it drops. I mean, the first month drop is never it, but as to what games are going to, I don't know. I think people are actually trying to work that out, especially in meching world. I mean, there's no, unless you want to do the turn-based BattleTech, which I've got and I've played a bit, but it's not a, I don't know, it's not a game you can keep playing forever. Or at least not for me anyway.
It doesn't scratch the
turn-based
itch.
stuff gets set to, dice rolls and clicks and I don't know. I had fun. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I got my money's worth out of it, but yeah, I don't know. The PvP online thing is more of a where I'm at.
Yeah, and yeah, I was really the one thing that ticked me most about. I should say I haven't gotten the refund yet. I'm one, too lazy, and two, I want that mech fix. I really want that game to be good. I'm gonna play it. Damn it all, I'm gonna play it. But the thing that
look, and that's cool. I mean, there's plenty that haven't refunded. There are some that are on the fence, and there's some that have. I mean, you got to make your own decision around that, and it's like anything. Some people are like, you're people are affecting the community by saying the vocal minority or whatever. I would say at least 10% refunds or 15% of people that are refunding a minority. Realistically, that's a hell of a lot in a 3-day period.
15% is a statistical significance in science.
Yeah.
So yeah. But the thing that ticked me off about most, because like when I heard Bowser was working on mods, or like
he still is.
Yeah,
they all still are. There's a whole bunch of them, dude. Yeah. They're all still going. Like they're all still. Trust me, they're all still going. I'm on the Discord chat with a few of them, and they're still steaming ahead. The problem is a lot of it's going to be delayed now, and not that it slowed them down a bit, I guess, but it kind of does deflate you a bit. I mean, you put all this time and working towards a goal, and then the goal shifted again, like for the third time. Okay, wow, like that kind of sucks.
A cup half full kind of guy would say, "Oh well, then we have a whole nother year to work out all the bugs." But I was really holding out for, like, oh man, I was hoping for the mod guys, just like we've seen with Dota and Teamfight Tactics and Dota Underlords and stuff, like people creating amazing stuff for this. And
I mean, look at where Dota came from. It came from Warcraft 3.
Exactly.
Like, literally, that's where it started. Like, I remember playing the OG versions back when, patch 0.01 or whatever. Like, that was 15, 20 years ago. And look what it grew into now. Like, it's phenomenal. It's amazing what can happen if a mod in a game can then be taken outside of some of its constraints and then made into something entirely different. And now look what Dota is, and then you got League of Legends, and it spawned an entire. I mean, that was what Ice Frog did that back in the day. I even remember the guy's username. Like that's how far it's gone. Like an idea within an idea that grows into something massively beyond itself is just can change everything.
And I was really looking forward to, because it sounded like Bowser and those people would have something ready really soon. So I was thinking like, okay, so if we can play the beta in August and then the game is released in September, then maybe before the end of the year we could see some really nice mods, and like all the Living Legends people would start porting stuff over. And I was like, oh my god, I was really. And then when I saw there was actually a part of me when I saw the tweet from Russ, was like, just like you had in your stream title, like people be all worried. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Maybe, they were, dude. They were legitimately worried for good reason.
Yeah,
because
maybe it is just a fluke.
Yeah.
And then there was a little part of me that's like, this guy has a track record of pulling the wool over people's eyes. Maybe you should. And I wanted to stay awake for the AMA, but it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna see.
Okay. Yeah, it was like 11 o'clock in the morning for me. I was driving around or something.
Yeah.
I forget where I was. I was in the car for like an hour, and I'm like, sweet, this is sick timing. This is really good for me.
Yeah. But I remember when I woke up, it was like Reddit and all the streams were like full of. I was just catching up.
The internet was broken that day, man.
Exactly. It was kind of just like you said. I remember where I was. It's just kind of like 9/11 or something. Like, I remember where I was when PGI announced that the Epic Store exclusive. I was like, oh man, really? You're really gonna?
I can tell you where I was. I know exactly where I was. I know I was in the car and what street I was on, because I was just shattered. I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna cause hellfire. Like this is going to cause hellfire.
Yeah. No doubt that people are upset, and I mean, I can totally understand it from a business point. I can totally understand it. on the other side, like they completely screwed the community in so many ways, and they're
Oh, look, from a business point of view, I get it. I see it with all the hats, right? I mean, that's what I do. That's what I do all day. I got to look at things objectively, and if I don't, then I'm doing a disservice to anything. But I get it on one kind of the business, and the other way, it's also a bad business decision as well, because now you've got an entire community, well, not entire community, but a large portion of a community all up in arms about it, and the entire community doesn't know yet. I mean, that no one's been emailed about it. It's only unless you're watching the website or listening to the AMAs, you don't know about it yet. So there's still potentially tens of thousands of people that don't fucking know. So yeah, I think it's only just starting.
And I don't know actually if I haven't gotten too much into it, but I know that there's some people. I've seen one German guy posting about it not being legal, what they've done. And if I have the time, I'm going to look into it in Denmark and see if it's actually like if they've done anything wrong.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to look.
Oh, look, I made it to that level. I couldn't give a shit about any of that. Like, well, so what? If you've got an issue, just get a refund, man. That's it. Move on. Like, I mean, really, is it in this whole day and age and world of countersuing and you know, creating drama where it needs to be? Like, we call that over here the American way of doing things, just suing everyone for fucking everything.
We do as well in Denmark.
Really?
Yeah.
Get over that shit. Actually, funny story. While I was driving through the States last year on my way to Mekong, because I took an extra week and a half off just to drive around and see Texas and Louisiana and stuff, and it was sick. I've never seen so many billboards on the freeways and streets about personal injury lawyers or, you know, something this, lawyer, sue, I'll get you your money. I'm like, fuck, just get over it, man. Seriously. Like, is there really a need to chase or sue anyone for anything? Like, fuck.
But that
get over it.
It's an interesting dynamic because, of course, if someone has wronged you, you should be able to get what's coming to you. But the problem is that when it becomes so available, people will start making up stories to actually get something that they're not entitled to, and that's
what it is. I mean, you see, now dash cams are a thing. I mean, how many times do you see people throwing them in front of dash cams to try and sue someone for apparently hitting them? Yeah. It's rife everywhere. Like, it's for sure. That's what I mean, because it's so easy to suck money out of people. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and what is the world like? We just turned into old men, Ash, right there.
Yeah.
What is the world? When I was young, no one was suing anyone. Yeah.
Well, about 16-year-olds will be listening like, what are you talking about? I don't even drive a car. Like,
yeah.
I don't drive yet.
That's one of the things I worry about in this podcast. Like, is it relatable enough for the young people that we actually want to reach? Or is it just, you know, us mech dads and like talking shit about the old days? Because I actually think you get...
Well, there is some relevance to... And probably a good point to garner knowledge, right? Now, how do you attain knowledge? You can read it, you can listen to it, or you can teach yourself it. Like, you can teach yourself to rebuild an engine. You know, you can pull apart a VCR and you know, a VCR, I mean, no one even knows what that is anymore these days,
exactly my point.
As a kid, you know, if something broke, I would pull it apart and I would fix it. Or at least have a go at fixing it myself. And I knew nothing about it, had no idea how it worked or the moving parts, but I pulled it apart. There was no YouTube back then. There was no Googling the answer. There was work it out yourself. That's lot to be said for that. Giving it a go. I mean, it's okay to get it wrong and to fail. I mean, okay, what if I fixed it or didn't fix it and it was broken? It was fucked anyway. I'll just go buy another one. So what?
Yeah.
What do you gain by having a go? Like I said earlier, you know, you don't know if you don't have a go.
I'm gonna have to write that down and put it on my own personal vision board. You won't know if you don't have a go.
Just staple it everywhere. Like I tell my staff all the time. Like, they come to me, oh, blah 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 blah. How do I do this? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Like, what do you mean? Well, have you tried to have a go yet? Like, have you tried to do it? No. Go try it. And once you've had a go at it and you've failed, then I'll help you. If you haven't had a go at it and you haven't even had an attempt to succeed at it, well, what's the point? Like, just coming to me for the answer is is not helping yourself problem solve and learn some basic life skills, as I call it. Like literally basic life skills, man. How to unblock a drain. Fuck, mate. The amount of people that have no idea how to unblock a drain, and it is the most simplest thing in the world to do, but they'll pay a plumber 150, 200 bucks over here to come and do it for them.
Yeah, but convenience today is the
3-minute job, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
But
crazy.
Like right now in my house, like I bought a house and I found out that they put in a new floor around the old dishwasher. So when I pulled the old dishwasher out, I was like, fuck, how am I gonna, there's this big gaping hole under my kitchen floor where now I have to solve it and put in a new floor and raise it, and oh my god. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna pay someone to put a new floor and an electrician to install it. But like, okay, maybe this is a good chance to learn, and yeah, so now I'm doing it myself. But when you were saying like, how do you attain knowledge? I think an interesting prospect today is that we didn't have when we were growing up, like YouTube, like the whole monkey see, monkey do dynamic of the like seeing is like we can learn from what we see is taking humans to a whole nother, and this is maybe like a philosophical tenet.
Look at it this way, right? You've got so much more access to knowledge these days than what there was 20 years ago as to what there was 50 years ago. I mean, people used to send letters in the post. If you wanted to talk to someone overseas or whatever, you would send them a letter. It would take weeks to have a conversation.
Yeah.
These days, you do it in half a second by picking up the phone, and now you can do it with like FaceTime. You can do it by seeing someone across the other side of the world and have a face-to-face conversation with them now. I mean, access to knowledge and all that sort of stuff is massively increased. And I think I remember reading an article over here last year about kids and stuff like that. Like they have in 1 week they have the level of access to information and knowledge that a kid 20 or 30 years ago or something had in a year. Like that's insane, man. That's insane.
Yeah, and I think sort of you and my generation are kind of like prototypes of what the YouTube, well, not the YouTube generation, but we grew up with going on forums and it, you know, digging up stuff and information, and that made us proficient. Like I imagine that a lot of the skills you've acquired were not through schools or education, but something you learned by yourself. And I think that's only
hands-on, man. Yeah. My family was a family of tradesmen, so everything was hands-on for me from a young kid's age. Like it was all have a go yourself. Like we were in the backyard doing building stuff all week long after work with the old man, and family was plumbers and all this sort of stuff. It's just knowledge and hands-on. I think once you start literally having a go at it yourself, you start realizing, oh, hang on a minute, I can do this, and then actually builds a little bit of confidence within yourself as well. Like, hey, I've done this once. I'll have a go at something else next time myself, and it's just about doing it, giving it a shot, you know.
And I think that kind of in Denmark we call it masters learning. That in the old days you would go to a guy who's a smith or a guy who's a welder, and he would teach you the ropes. But today you could just go on YouTube and watch. Okay, here's this guy. He's been doing it for years. He's telling me all his secrets, and that's actually how I learned to cook. Like I was shit at cooking, but I started watching cooking videos, and I was like for you, like I had no idea how to cook a steak. Like I was always, how the fuck are they getting it so tasty in the restaurants?
Yeah.
And then I learned like you need to turn it up real high, get some oil in there till it starts smoking, you know, charred on both sides, and then let it rest, or even before you let it rest, go on low heat and baste it with, you know, butter and garlic and stuff, and then it goes till it's medium rare.
Dude. Don't, food is just it's a constant experiment. I mean, before this morning, because I woke up early, like extra half an hour early. I was meant to before my alarm this morning. I was looking at how to make pastrami. Like, you know, 4:30 in the morning, I'm looking at making pastrami. What the fuck is wrong with me? Like, There's a problem there.
Yeah, but that's another rabbit hole. Like the YouTube thing is like, yeah, I got into my most recent food experiments was getting the whole ramen dish.
Oh yeah.
So
Ooh.
I
Oh yeah.
started, a 12-hour broth, boil, and I made the chashu pork and braised it for hours and hours, and like, and it's so something I think you get as you get older is that you get a satisfaction of things that take
Hmm.
time.
Well, sometimes it's also you can look at a recipe and say there's 3 different ways to do this. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna try this, this, and this, and you try it 3 different ways. You're like, hang on a minute. I'm gonna take a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and make my own.
Yeah.
Do it my way. Do it something slightly differently. I do that with a lot of stuff that I make. I'm like, yeah, you can do it this way, you can do it that, or you can do it like a halfway between, and I'll do that instead. So
I just want to give a shout out to Reckless. Thanks for following, and to the other people who have followed all throughout the stream. Really, I really appreciate it. We just today, before we started the stream, we hit a little milestone. We reached 100 followers, which was awesome for the stuff we're doing, and I hope to bring a lot more personalities to this stream. But to get back to what you're saying, I think an important thing in acquiring knowledge that I unfortunately learned too late in my life is that before I would always try to invent my own stuff first before learning the basics. So I would try to invent the wheel in English. You say in Denmark we say invent the what's it called, the deep.
yeah.
What the fuck is that called? It's a plate it's a soup plate, Don't try to invent the soup plate again. People have done it before. You don't try to invent the wheel.
Don't try and reinvent the wheel, but whatever.
Yeah,
you go with the
exactly.
soup bowl, that's okay.
I've had a few beers now. 2 beers. I'm a lightweight, guys. But like I would always try to invent the wheel again instead of like in martial arts. My teacher would say like, okay, do it this way. Like, and when you can do it this way, then start inventing your own stuff. I think that's something that comes from youth, that you think that you know better. So my advice to them would be like, okay, so first you make it work. Just do what your teacher or the senior guy says. Make it work, and then do your own stuff.
You need that grounding knowledge first. I mean, if you don't know, like the old left-handed screwdriver, like if you haven't got the basic knowledge to pick up, you do need that basic, and then from there you can actually build upon it yourself. I mean, I've disassembled my own cars, rebuilt them myself. You do need to have a little base level of an idea of what's going on, and then after that, you just work the rest out as you go. Like you don't need to necessarily know exactly how to do something and had watched, it all on 20 minutes of YouTube first to know exactly how to do it. As long as you've got the basic idea, have a go at it yourself. I find you retain the knowledge that way as well. Whereas if you watch something on YouTube, you get the answer, you just go and do it, and you kind of forget. Like for me, it doesn't stick. The knowledge doesn't stick either.
But you're talking about two different learning strategies. I'm talking about the deductive way of like sequentially learning stuff and then branching out. And you're talking about inductive learning, where you take bits and pieces from all kinds of different places, and then you put it together. For me, in my situation, I found
it's different for everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what being human is. I mean, everyone is.
Everyone is the same.
Work differently. Different things work for different people.
I just found for me that inductive learning was very satisfying for my ego, but things took much longer than they actually should have.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm just get in there and just have a go at it. And I've had some epic failures, like in the kitchen or other things, and it's just like, oh shit, we're eating pizza tonight, oh fuck. But it happens, whatever. I don't. I'm more of a wing it and wing it and see kind of person, whereas others are a bit more methodical. They like to go in with a lot more knowledge, and understanding and groundwork and all that sort of stuff first. I mean, again, everyone is different. You just got to find out what works for you. And that comes back to most things. How does it work for you? And you need to do that.
And you need to have patience.
Don't do it a way that doesn't work. If it doesn't work, don't do it that way. To change it.
And if we're speaking about food, my advice would be don't do your food experiments when you're having company. Do your food experiments while you're alone so you can make the perfect dish when company actually comes in.
Nah, I wing it, man. I take the gamble. I find I work better under a bit of pressure, so I prefer to put a bit more pressure on myself. I mean, one year I did a New Year's Eve dinner for 12 people. And I've never done 12 people in home in a residential house, like for cooking, but man, I kicked ass. I aced it. It was awesome. Everyone was like, this is great. Have you ever done anything like this before? I'm like, not without a commercial kitchen behind me, no, but yeah, for 12 people, no problem. Like, it was great. Just give it a crack, give it a wing it. Yeah, she'll be right, mate. Again, I think that comes back to a little bit of Aussie attitude as well. The old she'll be right, mate. You know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Don't worry about it. Something else will happen that'll work you out. That'll work in your favor somewhere else down the line. It'll be all right.
I just wanna a quick shout out to the Paulie. Thanks for following. Go leg yourself. And the Swagger, thanks for subbing. Thanks for the 2 months. I really appreciate it. Oh man, time is flying by. You still have another half hour, right?
Yeah, about half hour, and then I got to scoot to work.
Cool.
So.
Just you're the one who decides when you want to leave, because I can keep talking for hours and hours. So I wanna.
Yeah, I'm watching the clock because the phone will start ringing and stuff.
Yeah.
Soonish.
So
yeah.
But you leave when you have to, and we'll just round it out. So I want to hear. One of the things that I'm really interested in is what kind of esports or computer game skills do you think actually translate very well into life skills?
In terms of my experience, it's committing to something, right? And making that commitment to do it and seeing it through for better or for worse to the end. You know, say I didn't make it into EMP, fine. That's cool. Like if I didn't cut it. That's fine. But if I didn't commit to it and have a proper go at it, well, how do you know if you don't have a go? It comes back to this so often for me. It really does. Like I live. That's one of the things that I live by. Like if I don't try and I don't give it a shot, I mean, I'm only doing myself a disservice. I'm not doing anyone else a disservice. I'm just doing a disservice to me. So that's what I would take about it. If you're going to commit to it. Like whether that's, and you decide what your commitment level is, 30, 50, 100% of your time or whatever, and go it and give it your best shot. Like don't go in there and half-ass it and then at the end go, oh, well, that didn't work. Like whose fault is that? It's yours. Well, mine. That's it. That's definitely what I would take away from it. Like if you're going to commit to something in an esport team, go the whole hog. Don't put in 50%. And as a person if you're trying your hardest as well. Like if you're genuinely putting in, And if you're not, that as well. And internally, that within yourself. And if you don't, well, fuck, I don't know. You may have to see the team psychologist. I don't know. That's outside my scope of skill. I know if I'm putting in effort or not. Like I know that. Like it's just something I know.
But yeah, I also think something that games have taught me is like that things take time. Like nothing is like there's a part of our brain that requires us to have instant gratification of everything, and that part of our brain is wrong in a lot of areas in our life, especially like when it comes to food and career and school and stuff, because it wants instant gratification. And if we're not getting rewarded in some way or another for our efforts, like every time, we have a tendency to lose motivation and we quit.
But we'll see. I disagree with that because that's not how I've grown up, though. I mean, again, that might be an upbringing, a generational thing. I don't know, but I don't need constant reaffirmation that I'm doing a good job, man. I'm the boss. No one tells me I'm doing a good job. Everyone calls me the fucking asshole because I'm telling everybody that they need to be doing their job. Legit, man. I don't get a lot of thank you, blah blah. Look, I get it, but it's nowhere near as often as me telling people off for shit that they're not doing, right? So I don't need that. Some people do need that reassurance. I don't. Like, and not everyone does. I think and if you do, that's when you bring it up in a team aspect. It's like, hey, look, like I get that you give me some feedback on what I could be doing better, blah 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 blah. But as a person, it'd also be nice to know what I'm doing right. So if you could also let me know when I am doing good stuff right, that would also be appreciated. Like, I always go into, say, a meeting with my teams and stuff like that. If I've got some issues to bring up, I always bring up some positives and some negatives at the same time, right? This is what we're not doing well. This. But at the same token, we're also, in the last few weeks or whatever, this has actually been going well as well. It's not just just shit on them all the time. You can't do that. It doesn't work. I don't find that it gets a good response out of people at all.
No, there was actually a problem with one of my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teachers. It's like I would have a problem in a certain situation. It's like, why are you doing this? Because I don't know what to do. But you can't you can't try and grab the leg there, or you can't grab. Okay, yeah, I'm doing it wrong. But could you tell me what to do or what I'm doing right? Because then people like get confused and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, well, if that's not how I'm meant to be doing it, how should I be?
Yeah, exactly.
Sit down and go through it with me. Yeah.
And I know it as a coach, it can be frustrating to see, and also as a parent, it's very frustrating to see that. And I know this is gonna maybe rub people the wrong way, but sometimes you look at your children and you forget that they're not supposed to be thinking at your level. It's like, why can't you just put on your pants or eat your breakfast like a normal person? Like, oh yeah, because you're 3, I should actually be telling you and telling you and telling you and showing you and showing you and showing you how to how
every
to
day, man. I deal with this every day. It's like how I have to reset my brain sometimes every week at work. It's like, how do you not know how to use a fucking mop, man? Like, how do you know? I mean, people don't even know how to use a mop or a broom, mate. I look at them and I just put my fist through my head. I'm just like, oh, what are you doing? Just stop. And then I have to stop myself from blowing a fuse because it's like, maybe at the age of 20, they've never used a broom. I mean, as strange as that might sound, maybe they've never used one. And I have to go through the process of showing them how to sweep or use a mop, which is extremely frustrating because I would say if you're 20, you should fucking know how to do that. But all right.
I think my boss at my first job, I worked at a supermarket. Like, I didn't know how to use them up. Like, and he gave me that treatment. Like, what the fuck are you? Yes, but come on, man, it's sweeping. How hard can it be?
Yeah, how hard is it really? Do you really need to YouTube how to sweep some leaves?
But Daidashi has a very good point in chat. Like, another thing is setting goals, and for me, I agree that setting goals, and I've been on YouTube and read all the books about all the self-help books about setting goals and stuff, and for me, what works very good for me is not like very specific goals, but working in a general direction. Like, for example, right now I wanted to, or 10 years ago, I wanted to have my own business as a physical therapist, and I worked at that, and I made my living on that, and bought my house and all that by doing that for 10 years. But like, I would always, for me, making those very specific goals, I would always get discouraged when I wasn't meeting them. It would take away my motivation. And that's, I mean, Daidashi is making a very good point that you should you should assess it objectively. And that's maybe, if I should analyze myself, that was not what I was doing. I was analyzing it emotionally. I was not getting gratification by not meeting my goals. But I think that setting goals is something you should do very specifically. And if you find that you're not reaching your goals, you should make smaller goals that are very measurable as well, so you could actually start finding those small successes.
But then also, what do you want to get out of it too, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's certain goals and things, you've got to set them realistically based on what you want to get out of whatever you're doing as well. Like you can set all these goals and that's great, but if some of them are, well, a lot of them are just flat out unrealistic, well, you need to think about that too, right?
Yeah. And you should be aware that that's something that that I really took away when I was talking to Lars, who's the mental trainer for Australis, is that you need to be aware that these goals constantly change, either
Yeah,
because
shifting goals. Yeah, yeah.
either because that you figured out that you want to go in a different direction, or you actually start achieving the things that you set out to do. Like, okay, so now I've reached this goal. Like there's a lot of problems with people who are very successful that are constantly reaching their monetary goals, and they build businesses and they become millionaires and stuff, but they stagnate in life and become unhappy because so what do I do now? They don't know how to reorient and set new goals and actually feel that progression in life, and I think that's really important.
Same thing. Like our goal, one of our businesses was, 3 years we want to be here. We were there in 18 months, and then everyone's kind of standing around going, "Shit, now what?" Like, so we started another one. Like
Now the world.
it's weird. Like you have to, especially when you kick your goals too, especially if you ace them and you achieve them, say early. I mean, not every goal is necessarily has a timeline on it either, but if you achieve it early, well, take it in, look at it, and go, sweet, all right, now what? And again, constantly reassess as well where you're at, and the goalpost does shift. It definitely does. And something can come at you from the left field that you don't expect, throw a massive spanner in your works, and if you're still working to the old goals that you can no longer achieve, well, then you're going to become unhappy because you're now setting something totally unrealistic as an aim and a goal, and you're not going to achieve that. Well, why set something that you can't achieve? It's crazy. I mean, it might be good to aim for the sky. That's awesome, but if it's unrealistic, it's never going to happen. It's just going to constantly bring you down. I think, at least, anyway.
Yeah, there are some self-help books out there, and those are the like some of the like self-help gurus out there. They would they annoy me because they paint like this rosy red picture of, yeah, reach for the stars and or shoot for the moon and you might land among the stars, or and
Yep.
all those what's it called, hyperboles and cliches and stuff. I think it's really important to aim high, but like that Ashi says, like specific goals are really important. And to what you say, I think even to a bigger degree, really celebrate your progress. That's something that in my latest business, where we're working with virtual reality and rehabilitation, that we've really been caught up in the grind, and like yeah, so we made this milepost, now on to the next one. Like it's really important to savor your achievement, because that makes the process all the sweeter, I think. Does that make sense?
Totally agree. Yeah, you have to. If you're not looking at it and enjoying it, what's the point of it?
Yeah, for sure.
Really, like what is the point of all that? It would seem crazy to me not to celebrate, acknowledge, whatever, enjoy. Like that's what it's enjoyment. I mean, if you're doing something that's not enjoyable or not for enjoyment, why are you doing it?
Yeah, I mean, people can do it for a lot of reasons, like their parents' expectations, their peers' expectations, and it takes.
True.
Like I think that you on some unconscious level have reached a lot of the milestones that a lot of people would aspire to do, and you take it for granted that people would, if I'm not happy with what I'm doing, I'll just quit, and that I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Look, I've done that. So yeah, but the other thing is too is cultural. I do forget a lot of that as well. Like I know a few Asian friends and stuff. Again, family expectation and all this sort of stuff and all this pressure, and they were doing stuff that they didn't like. Whereas, mate, the I guess the Australian side of my upbringing was just like your parents tell you to do something, you tell them to basically fuck off and go do what you want. Literally, I would just go and do what I wanted anyway. They're not gonna tell me what I'm gonna do. Like I didn't find enjoyment in it. I ain't doing it. So yeah, it was just, I don't know. Again, different family upbringing, I guess. And that's a big thing too, is culture too. Like
Yeah.
different cultures around the world are very, very different to others. And I guess it comes back to everyone's, Ash is a loud, raging dude all the time or whatever, but he swears too much. It's just a cultural thing. You go down the pub here in Australia, you're going to hear far worse than what comes out of my mouth on a daily basis. It's just, again, it's two different cultures, 3 to 4, 5 different cultures, all sort of clashing and coming together. And that's, I think, why our team, I mean, we're only a casual bunch of dudes, really. We're not a professional team earning millions of dollars, but just a casual bunch of guys from different cultures. I think, at least for us, that makes it a really good environment. But again, cultures, it comes back to representing your country, and Koreans will play with Koreans and Chinese play with Chinese, and sometimes they will overlap in the teams, but a lot of the times they won't. And yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic, totally opposite to how I grew up as a kid and what I've learned, at least anyway.
I think also maybe if some of our listeners are stuck in a position or stuck doing something that they really don't like, but they are doing it because of expectations and stuff, what would you say to them?
Sorry, what was that? I was reading the chat. I was saying, like, well, I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah, Marie Kondo, like cleaning out your life. Oh yeah, I get it now. So maybe some of our listeners are stuck in a situation where they're doing stuff out of expectation for whatever reason instead of what they really love. How do you get out of that situation?
Well, I don't know. My parents basically kicked me out at 18, so I said, all right, you're going to kick me out. See you later. I'm doing whatever I want. So I guess it was a mutually exclusive departure. But I think, well, if you again, family expectation is a very, very big thing. I know some mates of mine have gone through a lot of that sort of stuff over the years, and they still fight with it today. They're 30, mid-30s, and they still fight with expectation of what their family says they should do versus what they want to do, and they often will cave back to that. I mean, over life and growing and stuff, they've learned to deal with the situations. It's better to talk it out and say, look, no, this doesn't really work for me. And much of the disdain of the parents that are just like, but that's just not how it is. And then they're like, yeah, but that's not how the world works or how I want to live as a person. So, yeah, look, I think it's very tough. I don't necessarily know a way to get around that because I don't have any exposure or experience in that area at all, to be honest. Like, I've just never had to deal with that from a family expectation perspective. My expectation was you just go to school. That's where it ended. I did that. I went to school. I didn't do anything at school. I just attended the premises, and that was about it. I mean, we'd sit in the library or out in the football field all day with my mates. We never attended class.
Ash, what are you doing? You're ruining our viewers. Oh, I want to be just like Ash. I just show up to school and don't do shit.
Don't be like me, man. Go to school, get your I mean, if you're at school to get a qualification or something and you need, well, you need to do that, right? But I didn't want to go to uni. It was a very different thing. I wanted to go out and get into the workforce and do it that way and build up a career. That's how I wanted to do it. And I know another 4 years of, well, how Australian school works. You finish at 18, you need your certificate, then you go on to university. I knew I didn't want to go to university, so I didn't need my certificate, which means I didn't need to worry about the last 2 years of school of my life.
See, smart. He's smart.
I just worked. I actually worked for most of my end of like high school over here. The end of those years, I just worked. I was working 20 hours a week, earning my way that way and building experience. I guess common sense and life experience that way. I went about it very different to a lot, but I look at a lot of my mates as well. A lot of them don't have uni degrees either. It's very interesting. A lot of us are very, very successful. Well, we would call it successful anyway. Not a lot of us have degrees. It's really interesting how that's worked. Some do. Some went back actually at age 30 to do their Masters of Business and other degrees at age of 30. They went back to school then, and that was the appropriate time for them to do that. But society's changed as well, and how it works and all that sort of stuff. So it's very different to when I grew up, 15, 20 years ago, finishing school.
Yeah, but it comes back to that old saying, like there are book smarts and there are street smarts, and I think a lot of the people who have a lot of street smarts are those who do well in life, because a lot of the
I don't
skills,
have book smart.
a
I have
lot
none of that.
a lot of the skills today, I mean, it doesn't, you don't have to be smart to be good at a lot of stuff. Like managing people, it takes practice and empathy, and you're good. You can
I
read.
don't think you can learn that in a book, man. I
Yeah,
really don't. Like
you
you have
can't.
to
I
not have your head in a book to learn about that. You have to be looking at the people. If you're looking at a book, you're not talking to people. I mean, yeah, you can read about how it all works, but you have to put it into practice at some point. And practice makes perfect.
Yeah, and that's also like a thing. What was that saying again? The beers are talking. I can't remember. You gotta go through it. You gotta do it to go. No, you never
You'll
know
never know
if you don't have a
go.
go. Yeah, exactly. And the earlier you start doing that and putting that into effect, like the more you start failing and failing. Well, when I say failing, you should of course fail safely. You shouldn't like, oh, I'm gonna borrow a million euros and start a business and then see what that happens. No, you should start on a small scale and fail. But those failure experiences will teach you a lot and faster. I wish for myself that I got into it a lot earlier in life, because I feel like
But you have to work out why you failed too, right? I mean, and then that comes back to anything, back to esports as well. Like, okay, why did we lose? Like if we lost an important game or whatever. Okay, why did we lose? You need to pull that apart. And if you can't work out why, well, you really need to go back to the drawing board at that point and look at it. Like, okay, well, why did we lose? Okay, we don't know. Okay, wow. Okay, we really need to go back and have an honest look at everything. I mean, most of the time you know why you lost, but sometimes there are a culmination of maybe 15 things that led up to the point where you lost. A series of small errors in decision making can lead to a greater error down the line.
yeah, and you could say like, well, if you can't find any reason to why you lost, maybe you need new people looking at why you lost. You need
Get
to
someone from the external to come in, have a look, and give you some pointers and have a look at it. You'd be surprised what you can get from someone external looking at something, and they don't know how you do it, how you operate, whatever. They just look at something and go, "Oh fuck, bang, that's it right there." And you're like, "How did you know that?" Like you look at it, "Oh, where did that come from?" Like
we've been
some of that
looking at
stuff
this
happens
for
with me in
years, and you
business. Like,
come in.
I look at something, I know I've been obsessing over it. I'll flick it over to one of my other mates. Mate, they'll have the answer within fucking half a day. Like, hey, just do this. Why are you doing this, this, and this? Shit. Yeah, man. I didn't pull myself out enough from the situation sometimes to look at it objectively enough as well to go, that's it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's about being objective too. You have to being objective in a situation, very important. We were talking about emotion and stuff earlier a little bit. Okay to have some emotion, but you definitely have to be objective as well and look at it in a more of a pragmatic sense when you need to go and then fix it, I think, as well. So, okay, this is what happened. How do we fix it? Again, set some goals, right? Pragmatic approach, set some goals, look at it, work towards it, achieve it, maybe not.
So that's also something I find that's common to people who achieve on a very high level, that they're able to hold these two conflicting ideas at the same time. Like, so I want the goal now, but I know it's gonna take a long time to fix it. I know I'm angry right now, but I know that I'm gonna need to eat these feelings because we need an answer to it. How do you think you develop that ability?
Well, I think it depends on the person, man. That's not this is going to be much of an answer, but it really depends on the person and how they get there in themselves. Everyone's different. Like you can attack a situation and from 5 different ways sometimes, and you can still achieve the same end result, right? Is any way better or worse than the other? I mean, maybe yes, maybe no. As long as you achieve the end result, why does it matter how you got there? Like as long as it didn't take 10 hours longer than the other guy, well, then you got a problem. But if someone is doing something in 30 seconds that you're taking 10 minutes, well, yeah, okay, now we've got a problem. But if collectively the methods to get to that point was the same, does it really matter? I don't worry about it. Like, oh, well, you did that wrong because you didn't follow the process. Yeah, but I got to the same goal, man. It didn't cost us anything. It didn't eat any more time or anything like that. Is it then right or wrong? I'd say it's correct. Some people will tell you no, it's not because you didn't follow the rules or whatever, right? Like how it's laid out. I disagree with that sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't follow the rules. That's probably I just make it up sometimes as I go. I just kind of wing it, man.
Yeah, but I think
have a go.
I think a big part of it being able to hold like two opposing concepts in your mind at the same time, or two opposing ideas, like speaks to a lot of what you were talking about and Daidashi was talking about in chat as well, is that you need to look at things objectively. It's okay to feel the emotion and be pissed about something, but you need to take a step back and look at yourself and say,
dude, you can have a bunch of ideas, right, that all kind of conflict with each other as to where you want to go and what you want to do. You can have more than two, I reckon, but one's going to win in the end, right? It's how do you get to that point? That is the challenge, getting to the point. Okay, so which one am I going to pick? Because I can't say you might have three different options. I can't have all three. You can only have one. But look, maybe you can have two. I don't know. It totally depends on what you're talking about, right? But you've got to. Sometimes you have to learn when to sacrifice something.
Yeah, for sure. Ash,
well, maybe not sacrifice necessarily, but let it go is maybe more the better term. Like let it just leave it behind to move forward.
Yeah. Something has to die for something else to live. We're pulling out all the self-help
shit, now who's being the poet? And
yeah. But I've been brainwashing myself with self-help for years to get to where I am in life. So I'm chock full of that. But I try not to.
I ain't read one self-help book ever. I should probably write one, maybe.
Maybe you should.
The Australian way.
Yeah, you should. I think there's a big niche out there just waiting for your self-help tips. Actually,
oh, mate, I ain't writing a book. Trust me, if I was writing a book, it'd be about a whole bunch of other stuff, and I could probably sell 1 million copies. But yeah, there'd be some pissed off people in the world about it, but that'd be all right.
I actually think there's a big market for like game-centric self-help that like takes all the concepts of self-help and puts it in a gaming context, or like for business. Like I was watching StarCraft 2 at one point, and I heard. I can't remember if it was what the the Australian Way by Ash Chapter 1. Don't be a cunt. The end.
Who the hell said that?
Curlon TV.
Oh, right, fair enough. There you go.
But what we're saying about StarCraft is like one of the metaphors that I really latched onto when I was doing, like when I started my first business, I was doing like canvas sales, just more or less door to door, trying to sell my idea. And one of the things I really thought hard about was when I think it was Tasteless or Artosis that said, like, no, it was Day 9 actually, which is I think it's Tasteless's brother. He said like when you make an expansion, you know, don't just, or when you win an engagement, get more ahead. So when you win an engagement, when you push back the early rush, then you build an expansion. You don't just sit and turtle. You need to use that time you gain by pushing the enemy back by building another expansion.
Capitalize.
Yeah, exactly.
Capitalize on anything, anywhere, any. Again, this may be not the right way to do it, but capitalize on weakness, at least in gameplay, at least anyway. I mean, you don't want to do that in real life with people, you know. You don't want to capitalize on someone's weakness unless you're trying to exploit them or something, and you know, maybe pushing the moral boundary or something. But you know, in gaming, absolutely. Like if someone's made a mistake, how do you capitalize on that? You either return the favor, or again, like in some games where macro and things like that are important, RTSs, things like that. Yeah. How do I turn this into a double win for me?
But I think actually when doing, for example, sales, there will be a tendency, or I I could recognize in myself when I made a big sale, I would be like, now to rest on my laurels. I'm just gonna have, but then you need to use that energy, all that positive energy you got, to say,
no, you need to be like, okay, where's the next sale, man?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
where's the next 2 sales even? Where are the next ones coming from? That's what I need to be worrying about. Okay, yeah, sweet, I made a massive sale, but okay, where are the next 2? Like, go get it, go find them.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're ahead, get more ahead. That's my poetry for the day.
Dude, I'm on board with that. Like, keep capitalizing. I mean, and sometimes you'll get to a point where enough is enough. And that's cool. Like, if you're happy with where you're at, okay to stop. Like, you don't have to keep constantly chasing and pushing. I think you can stop at some point and just enjoy the moments when you've reached it. I do a little bit of self-reflection like that. Like, sometimes I pull myself back and just have a quiet time, and then just go, look, yeah, I've achieved all this stuff. I'm still here. I'm still going. I'm still fighting. I'm still going. Still powering on. Don't need to keep going again today. I'm going to take half a day off and just go sweet and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Got to do that sometimes as well.
So we're nearing a time point where you have to go. So
yeah, I've got about 5 minutes. I reckon I have to call it a quit. Yeah,
we usually have just a little time for people to plug themselves as a minimum. If you don't have any, I think you should just tell something about the championship series.
Yep, perfect. Yeah. So anyone that is listening, MechWarrior Online championships, championship series is coming up. It will be an invitational for the top 12 teams over the last couple of years. And then for any other teams, you get to play on the comp queue within the game, MechWarrior Online, the actual comp queue system. So you won't have those top 3 or 4 teams beating the absolute shit out of you all night, right? So that's pretty important to improve the ecosystem a little bit. So that'll be coming up starting hopefully the next 6 to 8 weeks, I believe. So that'll be good. And then, we'll roll into finals, semi-finals and finals, and I'll be casting all of that on the MWO Leagues Twitch channels and stuff like that. So make sure you check them out as well. And it's going to be a good few months of comp. And I mean, look, if it is the last season of comp, I don't know. I hope not. But if it is, we'll go out with a bloody big bang.
Yeah, for sure. And if anybody wants to, if any of our listeners who don't know you already want to get in contact with you, could you just tell them how they can reach you on social media and Twitch and stuff?
Look, Twitch, JustcallmeASH. It's one word, pretty easy to find. You can just send me a message there or get in touch with me for anything. Like, I'm cool to help out, answer questions, MWO or anything else related. And otherwise, the Discord link, just have a Google for MWO space comp, and you'll get a bunch of stuff coming up there. So you can do that anywhere from the world to get on. There's a massive Discord, huge community actually. We've got, I don't know how many people it is, but I'm guessing it's quite an extensive amount of, I'm trying to have a look, see if I can see how many there is in there, but there's hundreds of people in there already. And it's a new thing. We've only been going for the last probably 12 months.
Sorry, I left Psycho Cup. I can't read that out on the stream.
I've just seen what he's posted.
That's so hilarious.
Oh, a good thing I did actually have a bit of a shave this morning. I was a bit woolly sheep like, but that's all right.
But anyway, for you guys listening out there, thanks for watching, lurking, listening to the podcast. We really appreciate it. Do leave a follow. The podcast can be found on all the big platforms, Spotify and iTunes and stuff like that. You can find us on basically all social media platforms on _Stim Pack. There we go. As usual, thanks for listening, watching, lurking. Have a good day and a good game.